Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Damage Per Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Bartel. With me today is the one, the only, OnlyFans top one
Thank
percenter,
God.
Mitch Reeves. I wish you were the top one percenter of OnlyFans because
Oh, it's
you.
fine. Listen, I'm starting a new thing. I've been workshopping it. We're gonna do
Uh-huh.
it. I
Okay.
feel like pretty soon. It's called OnlyMans, and it's the reverse. So I'm gonna be naked initially, and then as people pay me, I'm gonna put clothes on. OnlyFans.
That's that's pretty good. I
LLC.
like that. I
Yeah.
also had an idea for a foot photography
Mm,
website called Only
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 toes.
Only Feets.
Only feet. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yep.
we could have done that, but
I know I'm not a foot person, but like I
sure.
feel like that could be a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing. I mean, I'm neither am I, but you can make a I mean, I know some I've I've known some lovely women who
Yeah.
have sold pictures of their feet, nothing else, for
So, um,
way too much money.
yeah, I had there was a CRNA that I worked with at the hospital,
Hmm.
and her brother-in-law was a foot guy, and she like her.
He promoted this.
Well, no, no,
Okay.
but like this is not no. They didn't do this like on the internet, but
Okay.
she was like, yeah, my brother-in-law is like a foot guy and stuff, and she was like, uh, her sister would like text her and be like, he would like she'd get up to go to work and like try to put her shoe on, and like dude would have like nutted into the shoe and didn't tell her. It's like that shit put like feet people in the category that I was not prepared to understand, because I can't tell you how mad I would be. I'm not, I feel like women aren't really like, even if women like feet, they can't do that. So anyway, welcome to the new episode. Sorry.
Yeah. Matt, yeah, first of all, no kink shaming here.
No, not at all. But I'm
No,
just
I
saying.
know, I know you're not. But what I'm saying is that I just want to be clear. There's no kink shaming. But I do agree with you that that would be something very uncomfortable to put your foot into.
Listen, to any ladies that are listening, I mean, if you want to nut into my shoe, that's fine. But like, just tell me. Like, don't let me be surprised when I put on my socks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's not the first thing that I'm gonna think of. I'm gonna be
Well,
like I'm gonna think it's like a spider.
not only that, but I'm already not happy because I had to wake up. I'm going to fucking work, and I don't want to do it.
And now you
So
gotta wash your feet. Yeah.
the last thing I want is put on my sock and like step into my shoe and be like, "What the fuck?" Like that's not cool, man.
Welcome to Damage Per
Yep.
Fetish.
We're getting Jesse delisted, shut it down. This is
Yep.
a so
Not to get canceled again. Oh boy.
I'll never be back. So for those of you who don't like me, good news. Like, this is it.
That's okay. People like you more than me. Um,
That's not true.
we are here today. We are here today to talk about video games.
Yes.
Um, and some other things, but we're going to talk about Castlevania Lord of Shadows,
Yeah.
uh, which came out in 2010. So 14 years later, here we are talking about a game that was really weird. And pretty excited about it. But
Yeah.
first, it's March. We're coming up on the end of the first quarter of the year, and then I gotta think about what I'm gonna decide for content for the next 3 months. And I have no idea. So
He's like, not this.
yeah, yeah, not the foot fetish cast.
Yeah.
Um,
Only
so yeah, only feats. So that's a thing that's happening. But outside of that, I did a book giveaway for the latest Halo novel, Halo Epitaph by Kelly Gay. And a lovely gent in California won it. Congratulations, Daniel. I sent it to you.
I be honest, I'm jealous. Like I'm not a. I have, like I said, I think we talked about it, but I have that like small box set of the paperbacks, the first three ones.
Yeah, buddy.
When you posted the image for the giveaway, that cover art is so fucking dope. I
So
wanted
good.
that.
You
That shit
you
is so fucking cool.
Yeah, Halo Epitaph is kind of a interesting Halo novel because it follows the Didac who you kick his ass at the end of Halo 4, and he's
Yeah,
like one of the forerunners, and like all the lore stuff. He was part of creating human life and blah blah blah, and he was locked in the cryptum for like a gajillion years, whatever it is, several thousand until Cortana and Chief woke him up. But it's about like summing up his life. And the Didac's face on the cover is badass. It's so good. I love the Didac. I
yes,
think I think he's pretty cool. So it was a good send off to the character because it kind of like at the end of Halo 4, they like kick him into the composer. You beat him, he falls into the composer, and then 343 just kind of just didn't talk about him ever again in any of the fiction. So they I guess Kelly Gay, I don't know, they probably handed her I don't know how it worked. I'm actually in the middle of trying to get interview questions from her now with responses. So but I don't know uh how they handed that to her. I don't know what the deal was there, um but yeah,
yeah.
it's
That's
it's
probably. I
it's
mean,
really good.
honestly, that's probably like my main criticism for when Bungie left to do Destiny, which obviously I'm okay with because that's my lifeblood.
Yep.
But Halo, when 343 took over Halo, it's not about it's not that the games are bad. Like technically they're still really good, but it's like like part four and like Chief is like kind of seen as an outcast or maybe a villain, and then Spartan Locke's supposed to like go and like hunt him down and shit like that, and they hype this whole story up. So for as much shit as Bungie gets for kind of not being able to deliver on story beats and this and that, which it's warranted. It is like
Mhm.
Bungie's not great at story, but man, like 343 has almost like ruined Halo for me at this point, just because the promise versus the delivery is just not, it's not there. And then like when they like introduce like this villain and like this all these new shit and these new weapons and this and that, and then like you get to the end of Halo 4 and there's not even a fight. Like it's a cutscene. It's
Mhm.
like you get there and it's like, oh my god, this like shit's about to go down. Like this game's hard as fuck because I played it on like legendary or whatever, whatever the hard Halo difficulty is. Then you get to this fight and they're just like, nah, you're not gonna fight him. Like, yeah, it's a cutscene. And I'm like, well, what? So Spartan Locke really didn't do shit, and then you as chief, we're not gonna fight either. Like what? And then like, and then five comes out, and it's just like, man, don't worry about it. About Route 4, that was fine. It's not. So it's like, and I don't know. Like I feel like they spend so much, and I get it, but it's like they have such big shoes to fill, and they spend obviously a lot of time on the multiplayer and stuff like that. But if you play these games like I do for the story and for like the single player, it's like broken. It feels like a I don't know, a cop out. It's not that it's broken. It's just they just don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think like for me, like I'm probably uh more forgiving of 343, but I preferred the Bungie games, obviously. But I think that like, especially with Infinite, where the I liked the gameplay of Infinite, but they did nothing with the story, and the only
Yeah.
story fill-ins we got were from the books, but they still kind of haven't figured out what they're doing yet. Like the one thing I did like that 343 has done, aside from continue the books, which I really think that the books are really great still, but I think one of the things that they did right with the games is they gave us Atriox, and I think Atriox is a really, really great villain with the Banished and as a like
Oh yeah.
big evil monkey dude. And he's really great. They still don't know what to do with Cortana, like that whole thing of her being a rampant AI, and then she became like
Yes.
a police of the universe, and then
Yeah.
Aatrox like trapped her at the end of Infinite, but it doesn't it's not really sure where I'm not it's not very clear where the series is going. Where I used to
Right.
feel like at least with Bungie, it was like there's a clear direction.
I mean, you
And
say that, but like I've played Halo 3 is probably the Halo I played the most.
mhm.
Just from the fact that like they let you do so many things with the multiplayer. Like we used to play um me and a bunch of the video game nerds at the hospital. We would play Halo every Friday, and we would play what's that? We called it Mosh Pit, but like when you would like set like the base, and then like we all had gravity hammers, and
Uh-huh.
like it was King of the Hill, but with gravity hammers. And we called it Mosh Pit, and stuff like that. But I've played through that campaign multiple times, and there's still portions of it where I'm like, what? Why is this happening? Like, there was one point in that game where you're like going through this level, and the Flood are on your team, and then you get to the end, and then the Flood are trying to kill you, so you have to go back out. I still don't know why that. I don't know why that happened.
That that's because the Grave Mind was playing a little con. He's playing the con, the Grave Mind. That big
But
old
like,
bab.
this should be a podcast. If you can explain that to me, that's a whole different episode we
I
could
mean
do.
yeah, we
I've
could. I
played that
could.
fucking game.
I could explain to you all
I've
about
played
the
that
great
game
the
so many times, and I do not understand that.
we could talk about the Grave Mind for sure. I would love to talk about the Grave Mind. That was the Grave Mind happening to Halo was one of the biggest turning points. That in Halo 2 when you meet the Grave Mind, it's like
Yes.
it's with you and the Arbiter. It's like it's crazy. It's a crazy moment for the series. And it's just as crazy as when you're playing Halo 1 and you get to 343 Guilty Spark and
Yeah.
you have the flood level and like you just like the whole tone of the game changes completely. It's like a horror film all of a
Yes.
sudden.
Yeah. It like Halo becomes survival horror like out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
So with Halo 2 when the Gravemind showed up it opened up like the lore to the whole series a lot more because you're like, "Oh, well here's this crazy old monster thing that knows who the forerunners were and is able to like hive mind control the flood and it's just super super crazy. I would love to talk about the grave mind. I think the grave mind's super cool.
Please, like, I mean,
Yeah.
listen. I know like, these episodes aren't your most popular, but
No, man, I could talk
it didn't have
about
to be an episode.
grave
Just
mind.
call me. Let's just
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah,
it.
let's just talk about the grave mind.
Yeah, please
um
make it make sense for me.
yeah. I could So I will say the one thing I don't like about Halo 3 is that they kind of wrote the Arbiter out a little bit. And he was
Yeah,
like, I love the Arbiter. Not just
I
because
do.
it's Keith David, but I
That's what I
just
say. Not just because it's Keith David, because I had I had an opportunity one time in my life to meet Keith David. It was at Days of the Dead Atlanta, and I forget what year. And I went,
hmm
and I was like, so here's the thing. So this is what I want to do if I ever get to meet Keith David. Okay, I'm gonna go to like McDonald's or like somewhere around here and be like, can I just buy like the fry container? I don't want the fries. I just want
just
like
want the
the fry.
container. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to just walk up to Keith David at a horror convention and put it down in front of him and just see if he gets it.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't know that he would. But if he did, it would be so amazing. Because it's like, the minute work thing
Yeah, yeah.
where he's like, there are several sacred things in this world you don't ever mess with. One of them happens to be another man's fries. And so I want a McDonald's like French fry container signed by Keith David so bad, but I don't want to have to explain it to him. And like I had a similar weird. This is going to be a long podcast, bro. We're going all off the rails tonight. Uh, when I was at Days of the Dead a few years ago, uh, David Naughton was there,
Hmm.
and he's the first person I went up to. And I wanted to meet David Naughton. I was so excited. I love American Werewolf. I was like, oh, and he's like, when they announced he was there, I was so excited. So I went to him first, but also Tony Todd was there. And so they had like this panel, like for something. I maybe it was Candyman. I don't remember what it was. But so Tony Todd like wasn't at his table like in the afternoon when I was like I wanted to meet Tony Todd. And so we were just kind of like everybody was standing in line, and what turned out what happened was Tony Todd had gone back up to his hotel room and fallen asleep.
Sounds
So
about
he
right.
yeah, so he wasn't at his table when he was supposed to be. And so we were all just kind of standing there waiting for him. And unfortunately, I felt so bad, dude. Unfortunately, the line just went right past David Naughton's table.
Oof.
And so he's just
Oof.
kind of sitting there like looking at everybody. And I was like, so I felt so bad. And so I guess his publicist or whoever had like brought him lunch.
Hmm.
So he had this like clear container with like a sandwich in it, and he was sitting there kind of eating while nobody was paying him any attention. And
Poor David.
yeah, and like we made eye contact, and I was so uncomfortable. But he was like looking at me eating his sandwich, and I was looking at him, and so I was like, "That's not a meatloaf sandwich, is it?" And he was looking at me, and he's like, "Oh no, it's like turkey and what?" And then he stopped, and he's like, "I just got that." And I was like, "Yes, yes, he got the job, bro." I was so uncomfortable, but he got the joke. So,
So we'll put our feelers out. Keith David, if you're listening.
mm,
Keith David, if you're listening, I know you are.
hey, David, if you're listening, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Let's talk about Saints Row the
Got a French fry
third.
container.
Yeah, it'll be great. Um, so let's talk about what we've watched. I'm gonna pick one thing, you're gonna pick one thing. I'm gonna start first. I
I can't even
saw
imagine like how disappointed you are every time we do this. You're like, so anyway, this is why we're here.
I just
I,
no, I just the manager and me, just move it forward. Um, so I saw Dune Part 2 in
yeah,
theaters. I went last weekend before anybody saws it, because a theater like an hour from me was doing a fans early screening of Dune Part 2 in IMAX.
oh, I just assumed like
Yeah.
you were like, a guy, and like they were like, yo, we gotta let
Yeah,
Jesse see this.
yo, renting out the theater for you, bud. Just come on down, bring you and the homies, watch Dune Part 2. Imagine if they did a Dune Part 1 and Part 2 back to back. That'd be like seven, almost like it'd be like 6 hours in the theater. Wow.
Yeah,
Um,
I did that. I went and saw Grindhouse, the theatrical Grindhouse. So I saw
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Planet Terror and Death Proof with all the trailers like
That
in one sitting. So
that
yeah,
that's fun though. I mean, I feel like
it
though
was
I think sitting in the sand, sitting in the dunes for 6 hours might be a lot.
sitting in the sand.
Yeah, just a lot of sand for 6 hours. It might be tough. Uh, I got the Dune Gussie. I got the Dune
Fuck yeah.
bucket. It was $25. I spent money on it.
I
Uh,
mean, I would. I ain't gonna lie. Like,
I'm curious to see if like in 4 weeks it's going for a few dollars on
oh,
eBay.
it's gonna be 100%.
Just like the because the Taylor Swift one was doing numbers like that too.
Oh, I mean, you know, I don't know if there are Dunesies like there are Swifties. I don't know.
Tunesies. Um I will so what I will say about Dune Part 2 is I absolutely loved it. I don't know, it's incredible. Like if you liked the first Dune movie, you
Yeah.
will absolutely love this one. If you did not like the first Dune movie, you will also not like this one. So it's I think if you like the first movie, you'll like this one more. It's more uh it doubles down on what makes it Dune.
Yeah.
So it really sinks its teeth into the weird stuff, which is what I love about the Dune books. And yeah,
Yeah.
I thought, I was kind, first movie I thought dude, Timmy Charcuterie Board as a Paul was like so I was like,
Timmy Wonka,
he's yeah,
as we
he's
know him.
what's that?
Timmy
Willy
Wonka,
Wonka.
as we
Yeah,
know him
yeah.
now.
Willy Wonka was he I just think he really nails it this time. Zendaya is great. Everybody's just awesome. Jessica Ferguson, like the whole cast is great. Visually it just kind of melted my eyes. I know
I mean, that's all I want from it, to be honest. I mean,
yeah, visually it's definitely a movie to see in theaters. And I know Dennis Villeneuve. I think that's how you say his last name.
I don't know how to say it. So
Yeah.
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, sounds right, right? He was getting blasted on Twitter because he said that dialogue was not good for cinema or something. I don't know what he said, but it didn't matter because I thought it was dumb that people were like it would be one thing if some very unsuccessful poor movie creating Monster Man made a comment like that, but I don't know why people are arguing
Hey,
with him because that dude has put out banger after banger of
yes, yeah.
visually exciting movies. I mean, Blade
Well,
Runner.
it's the same thing, man. Like I'm so done with the internet, like in like shit like that, because I I'm a well documented Schneider DCEU apologist.
Snyder
I think
Boy.
I think Batman versus Superman is peak cinema.
Uh-huh.
So obviously my opinion doesn't mean shit. So I. But here's the thing. So I've seen the Dune from like '84,
Oh
whenever it was.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
That's a movie.
yep. I'm old, so Dune has always been like a thing that I was aware of, but like I'm not like I was a Star Wars kid. Like I wasn't super into Dune, but I have a friend that I worked with at the hospital, and she loves Dune, and so she's like when the new one came out, I didn't go see it in the theaters. I kind of waited till I got like the 4K, and I remember I was home from work and I was watching it, and I was just texting her the whole time. I was like, "Who the fuck is this? Why the fuck is this happening?" Because like the movie didn't necessarily like explain it in a way that my very tiny brain could comprehend. And so I remember when this one, the sequel was announced, I literally texted her and I was like, "Yo, what are you doing that weekend? Because if you want to go see it, like we can go together, like that kind of thing." So
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm hoping that me and Lindy go watch, because she's like a super, like she's like a Dune mega fan. Like her, like one of her like online handles was like Shy Halud, and I was like,
Oh, really? So she calls herself the Worm.
yeah, and I was like, what the fuck is that? She's like, well, it's like this, the spice and the worms, and I was like, oh, like Beetlejuice, and I was like, sandworms, you hate them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She doesn't, like she loves sandworms. So
Well, I will say that when you read the first Dune book, it's a lot like what are they talking about? What's going on? It's one of those things that's
well,
like you start reading it, and then once you just it's like it's just like the movie. Like once you're like in that world, you're like, oh, this makes sense now. I get it. But
yeah.
it like
Well, and also
osmosis, you
like
learn.
so outside of this podcast, which is obviously my favorite, and then my podcast, werewolves, which is
Which is obviously my
subpar,
favorite.
subpar on like every level. One of my favorites is this one called "Best Movies Never Made," and I may have talked about it with you before.
Yep.
But uh, so this week they dropped part one of an episode with a Dune kind of expert guy, and this show was about an unmade Dune sequel to the '84 Dune, and it's a movie. Yeah, and it's a movie like that would have been a sequel to Lynch's Dune, but also based on like the second book, which I guess the second book is like not necessarily action heavy, but like so much more into like the democracy and shit like that.
Yeah, it's
And so like listening to them talk about the script and like the people, I don't forget who wrote it, but listening to them talk about somebody trying to like adapt that book to a script and like make it
uh-huh.
entertaining. Oh, it's so good, man. I'm not even a Dune nerd, but I'm just like, oh, that would have been great. Holy shit. Like that kind of thing. That's why I
Yeah,
love that podcast.
that's awesome. Yeah, Dune Messiah, the second book, is wild. And if you,
Mm.
which the one thing I'm really good at, one thing I really appreciate about this second Dune film it's like he broke the first book into two parts.
I was gonna
Um,
say like right, like the book, the first book, like this movie was like the first movie is like half of it, and this movie is like the second half, so it doesn't get into a sequel book at all.
right. And
Is that
so,
right?
yeah, so he wants to do Dune Messiah, but they haven't, I guess, got greenlit for it yet, or he's still thinking about it. But I do appreciate
Listen,
that this second movie really leans into what the second book would be about, and that is Paul's not so great. And
yeah, yeah,
I
he sucks.
think
He's like Space Hitler, and then and then apparently I don't know. I only know this from this podcast, but yeah, he's Space Hitler and like um oh shit, what's his name? Duncan,
Duncan comes back as a zombie.
but he's like a clone or some shit.
Well,
Like
yeah, no, so yeah, it's kind of weird. So he's basically like the reincarnated, like he is like a zombie version of Duncan Idaho with like the memories of Duncan, but he's not within himself exactly Duncan. It's kind of strange. And that dude ends up like marrying Paul's sister, who's like
oh my
14.
god,
Yeah.
all I can imagine is like all I can imagine is what's his nuts, who's Aquaman, what's that actor,
Oh,
that guy.
Jason Mimosa.
Jason Momoa would have no understanding whatsoever of what's going on, but he would have a
Have
fucking ball just
Yeah.
playing.
He was in the first movie. He was a great Duncan Idaho. That's exactly
Yeah,
what That's exactly who I imagine what Duncan Idaho would
yeah,
look like. So,
yeah.
props to Momoa for looking like a good Duncan Idaho. So yeah, I recommend Dune Part Two if you liked Dune. I think it's times two everything that made the first movie great, and it's not going to change anybody's mind if you did not like it. The guy for IndieWire, I forget his name. Uh, let me see. Hold on a second. Dune review IndieWire.
these are these are so many keywords I would never fucking type into Google. Like I
So
don't.
so 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 David Ehrlich, he reviewed Dune Part Two. He hated it, but he also hated the first movie. So I'm not sure. Listen, I'm not saying no one can
Oh, there
hate the
you go.
movie. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not saying you can't dislike the movie or give it a bad review, but I feel like if you already hated the first movie, why would you come to?
Why would they let him review the
Yeah,
second?
he's
Right.
not gonna like it. Like it's just
Yeah.
more of the same. But he reviewed it. He hated it,
Hey man,
and
look, I'm a person who spends a gross amount of money on literal garbage. Okay, like like I'm excited when Vinegar Syndrome drops their like monthly releases because I'm like, oh my god, what piece of shit can I spend $40 on? Like I don't need I don't need people to like Dune to like
for you to
inform me
like it, yeah.
if I'm
But
gonna like it or not. Because you know what, I like trash. Like
that's
it's
fine. And I'm not like I guess what I'm saying is that like I don't need like him writing a bad review shouldn't inform you whether you should see the movie or not or whatever. I just think it's kind of a weird thing to like why did you opt into seeing the movie early and taking somebody else's spot who might have maybe wanted to see it more
Well,
than you
it's
did.
probably that original like interview like got them a certain amount of clicks or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, yeah,
They,
yeah.
they you know they have to make a living, so like that shit's important to them. But for
True.
me, I'm like, you know what? The one person on this planet that likes Dune to the extent that like I like Batman or like Moon Knight, shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
My friend Lindy, and she enjoyed the first one, and so I was like, well, shit. We used to do like movie nights, and we would just watch. One of our most infamous ones was shit, I can't remember. Anyway, it was like anyway a ridiculous movie. And I was like, if I'm gonna watch this with anybody, it's like the one with the Rock and like Justin Timberlake, and it was like
What? Is it the time one? No.
yeah, they're at the end, they're like in the ice cream truck that floats into the sky and shit, and I'm just sitting there like,
What? No, hold on a second. Justin,
what in the shit? And
Justin
like
Timberlake and
Michelle, Sarah Michelle Gellar's in it.
what?
Yeah,
Mama Geller?
yeah, and it's
Oh,
nonsense.
oh, Southland Tales.
Southland
Duh.
Tales,
Yeah.
yes, thank you,
God.
yeah.
Okay, now yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so
Sorry.
yeah,
I don't know
so
why I didn't get that.
what we used to
Richard
do,
Kelly
like,
did that. Yes, sorry.
yes,
Donnie Darko and all that. Yes,
yes,
yeah.
that, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like what we used to do, like we worked together, right? But like so
Hmm.
like, she would come to the house on like Fridays, and we would get like we'd order Chinese food, and we just watch nonsense, and it was great. Like we had such a good time. And like I said, she's a huge Dune fan, and so when I was watching the new one, I was texting her the whole time, like, "Why is this happening? Well, who is this? What's going on?" And so I texted her a couple weeks ago, and I was like, because we haven't done that in a while, because like it's the whole thing. But I was like, look, we haven't had a movie night in a while. Like, what if we rewatch, the new Dune, and then would you go with me to the theater to see the new one? And she's like, absolutely, I go see it with you. So so that's still kind of a thing. I hope we get to do
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. You gotta go see that Dune 2 in theaters.
I want to go.
Uh,
I want to get the popcorn bucket. I ain't
you
gonna
gotta
lie
get
to you.
that. You gotta get that $25 popcorn bucket. It's gonna be sold out by the time you get to it, homie.
It
It,
is. Well,
we,
first of all, I don't know that it was ever going to be down here anyway. Like, it wouldn't sell out. I just don't know if it ever come here
I think
because,
you
like,
have to go to an AMC too.
but we have those. But I'm just saying,
Uh,
I just don't think that's just not a thing that would come here. Like,
no.
I have the internet and I see all these things and I get super excited. But like, they don't. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get the thing, and I get there and like, yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on the internet. I see the things people have. I would like them too.
Yes, but like it's Alabama, so unless it's like I don't know, like and there's like a redneck movie where like they sell like a replica shotgun or some shit, we'd have that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
not gonna have
Yeah,
gonna have.
you could just walk into a Walmart, get one.
Mhm. So I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna have it or not, but
Um, Dune 2, 5 out of 5 sandworms.
nice.
And you watched TD&C.
I did. Yeah,
Tell me about so I've heard mixed things, but I've heard more favorable things than not, but still not quite uh the sort of that first season. I don't think anyone's ever gonna beat, so
there will never be a better season of True
there'll
Detective.
never be. Yeah, it's just impossible.
Season one.
So not comparing it to season one. How do you think Night Country do?
It's hands down the best season since season one. I'm a big Issa Lopez fan. I love Tigers Are Not Afraid. Uh, it was kind of like surprising a little bit to me as I watched this new season because it has a lot uh, of similarities to Tigers, and I guess that's probably on me that surprises me. But like, like Tigers is so good. And then I was like, and then like, she kind of caught the eye of like Guillermo, and they were supposed to be doing like a werewolf thing. But I guess she got offered, the chance to do a new season of True Detective, and obviously you're gonna take that
HBO money,
opportunity.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is very, very much like a Tigers are not afraid thing. Um, but I can't remember her name. I feel so bad. I should have done notes. But the girl that plays the other detective that isn't
Jodie Foster?
not no the other one. The Jodie Foster's great,
Uh-huh.
but she plays off of this other girl.
Fiona Shaw.
Yeah, she's. I guess I don't know, man. I had to get my phone out. I don't want to like disrupt
Well,
people, but
does she play Rose and I forget
Navarro.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
she's so good. Whoever the
okay.
actress is that plays Navarro, like,
Oh,
and she's like,
Callie
she's
Reese.
like,
Callie Reese is the actor, sorry, that plays Navarro.
yeah. So she's basically plays like this character who is like kind of like butting up against Jodie Foster, but at the same time, like kind of like with her, like they have like a history. It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
She's phenomenal. Like it's so good for like it's like 6 episodes, and like 5 episodes of this show are fucking amazing, and you're just like you cannot wait. Like I almost like I was watching episode 5, and I was like, all right, do I stay up for an hour and a half to finish this, or do
Mm-hmm.
I get up early to finish it? Like that was kind of where I was. I was like, I could not wait to see kind of what happened, and so I mean, my only criticism of the show was like the ending was kind of disappointing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not that it was bad. It's just that like the show was so good until the end, and then I was like, the ending was all right.
So
But
so I from what I understand of this series or this particular season is they kind of lean more on the supernatural stuff.
Supernatural, yeah. So if have you seen Tigers Are Not Afraid?
I have not seen Tigers Not Afraid. I am aware of it, but I have not seen
So yeah, so first of all, I highly recommend watching
it.
Tigers Are
Put it
Not
on that
Afraid.
to watch list immediately.
It's amazing. And in this show, um, she kind of they kind of gave her like the reins and said go with it. And she wrote what is essentially like if you just kind of want if you need to like compartmentalize it and be like, well, because I hate that because everybody's like, oh, well, it's this. If you like this, it's kind of like that and this and that. I
Uh-huh.
don't I don't like to do that because you know it, everything is somebody's first kind of
Thing.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to like always have to like compare one thing to another, but uh, uh this season was very much John Carpenter's The Thing if it was Tigers. Like there's like there's this thing and you're like, oh, all right. You kind of they kind of like give you little bread clues and like you and the thing is, right? It's like everything else. However interested you are in it, it is very much based on whether or not you care about the characters. So Jodie Foster's character, she's kind of shitty, but like you also kind of like don't know why exactly, and like you learn more about her as the show goes on, and then there's Navarro, and you're like you like her, but like also like you kind of learn things about her and stuff like that. So it's like very different from every other episode or every other episode season
Uh-huh.
of True Detective. This is very much. You know, if you like Issa Lopez, and I do, I love her very much. Tigers, I thought was amazing. So this is like, it really is, you know, getting to see her get a shot at something that isn't, you know, indie. It isn't, you know, like you know, like it's like when these directors who kind of find success, you know, but they're like, you know, from their home countries and stuff like that, right? So it's like Mike Mendez, like, you know, I love Mike Mendez, but like Mike Mendez has to do movies like Hispanic, satanic Hispanics, because
Right.
like he doesn't have the crossover, right? And so
Wait,
this
didn't
is
he
kind
do
of like,
wait, didn't he do one of the paranormal activities?
no,
No.
uh, he, you know, he did that nun movie, The
Oh
Convent,
yeah,
what
yeah,
it's
yeah,
called.
yeah. Oh yeah, he
He
did
did
the grave
that.
dancer. He did the grave dancers. I don't know
Brave
why.
Dancers,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. that
Big
was
Ass
that was that was
Spider.
that was the one.
He did one of the he did my favorite short in that Tales of Halloween movie. He did the one that was like the Friday the 13th one.
Oh, big ass spider. He did.
He
Yeah.
did Big Ass Spider, yeah, yeah. And he did Lavalantula. But he did that one in
Satanic Hispanics was his last one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's like that's an anthology that he did with several other like Mexican, you know, kind of up and coming like directors and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And like you know, I mean, for better or worse, you kind of feel like Issa Lopez would probably end up doing that even after Tigers, which is so fucking good. But she's, you know, a minority director, and not a minority and a minority, right? To borrow Kevin Smith's vernacular, right? She's not white and she's female. So Tigers is so fucking good, but like it ended up on Shutter. I mean, I have the fucking steelbook, but it's
Hmm.
like, you know, I there's not many people around here. I could be like, "Did you see Tigers Are Not Afraid?" And they were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
But
Like, you know,
she got her big break. She got it. She did it.
she did, right?
She got that
And so,
HBO money, and now she can do the Guillermo del Toro
yes,
side
yes,
project if she wants to, right?
yep,
So
yep.
hopefully, you know, she does her big paycheck for her big old corporation and made it her own thing, and good for her. And
She was in the King cast again, like she's talking about this season. It's a really good season.
mm,
And like I said, it's I still feel like the first season is better, but that has nothing to do with her. I just the first season of that show is so fucking good
uh-huh.
that oh my god. Anyway, sorry.
No,
So
you good?
so good news. We can talk about whatever the fuck you want for as long as you want to, because I guess the raid isn't happening. I just got a notification.
Oh yeah, so we were on a bit of we were on a timer. We were doing a speed run. We were doing
Not anymore.
not anymore because Mitch was going to do a raid in Destiny 2.
Yeah, I can waste even more of your time now because
Speaking of Bungie, speaking of Bungie, I have set up an interview with uh Danny, and we'll be talking about video games in a couple of weeks. So Mitch, if you have any questions, just write them to me and I'll ask him.
oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I well on the when we actually record, you can't really talk about the inner workings of Bungie and what like exactly they're
I know you said like yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Like he's got to be a little
you got to be careful about what you
careful.
ask.
'Cause yeah, he's got yeah, exactly. So I don't know. But I know you're a big Bungie Destiny fan, sorry. So
Yep.
be cool to talk to him about video games in a very uh tempestuous time. They light off everybody.
Like games are like, oh my god, like
They were like, Everyone was like, like Microsoft laid off a bunch of people, and everyone's like, see, well, that's what happens when you don't like focus on first party games. And then Sony just turns around, who's known for their first party games, and lays off 900 people, mostly from their first party developing teams, like Naughty Dog, I think Santa Monica. Insomniac lost a bunch of people. Do you know how crazy it is that Insomniac, who did this, who basically carried the PlayStation for 5, whatever we're up to now, with the Spider-Man games, and then they still got people that get cut from Insomniac.
That's
Crazy.
nuts.
It's
But still,
crazy.
but I mean, but then it was like I kind of feel that, but at the same time, there's like the studios where you're like, yo, play Sea of the Stars. It's like there's this like tiny studio, and they're like, and you're like, yo, this is gonna tie into like the Messenger, which you also liked. I'm like,
Right. Well, I mean that's what I mean. I feel like that's what's happening is that we're at like a recession of video game. I don't know what you call it, but essentially what's happening is that like they're seeing like games like Helldivers 2 and
oh, it's so good.
um yeah, like so I'll just say Helldivers. Right now, let's just say Helldivers 2. It's a $40 video game
Helldivers
that
2 is like completely like taken over.
yeah,
Like,
it's completely taken over. It's a $40 game made by a small studio. It is published or not, it's not published by Sony, but they have rights to
but
the console
yeah,
version.
it's a first party like release, but like the studio that made it is like a hundred people, literally 100 people made that
Yeah.
game.
And so they're just kind of like, I mean, it's crazy just making video games that they want to make that are fun. And it's really telling when, and I think too, like, one of the other things is that like, that just, sorry, the Suicide Squad game that was a live service, that is a live service game, that probably won't be a live service game for much longer. But
Nope.
like, people are like, well, see, this is why service games don't work. And it's like, no, you just make a good live service game and it should be fine. But the problem is that they're putting out a lot of not so great games, and so that's the problem. And so there's nothing wrong. I think Destiny 2 is probably the only live service game that's actually making money.
That's
I
the
don't.
thing, right? It's like every Suicide Squad that comes out that has like a big studio back in like WB or like whoever, and even Gotham Knights, right? Everything is like called like quote unquote a Destiny killer, and like that's not the way to like approach that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Destiny is. I mean, I'm not. Listen, I love Destiny. It's my favorite thing in the world. So I'm not the right person kind of to speak on this, but like I can't imagine if somebody like gave me $40 million and they were like, make a game that's going to be the Destiny killer, and I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like I don't know, because Destiny is kind of like lightning in a bottle, right?
right.
Because Bungie is a company that does, you know gunplay probably better than almost anybody. I mean, that's arguably, but I feel like the reason to play Destiny or the reason to play the Halos back in the day and stuff like that is because they know how to make a shooter.
Yeah, well,
And then
they know how to make a shooter, but they know how to make those games feel good, right? And like one of the quotes from the Halo 3 documentary was one of the game designers. I can't think of his name, but he talked about the 30 seconds of fun, which is like a big thing they've pulled from that. And
yes,
that,
but you
yeah,
do that over, like,
yeah,
to not make that boring. Just
yeah,
make that over and over again. Yeah, I
yep,
saw the same thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's exactly what it is. And
yeah.
it's like, and then you like sprinkle in like exotics, right? And it's like, and it's why tonight I'm supposed to do a raid.
Get
Um,
that shoddy.
when I've been playing Destiny for fucking 10 years, and I don't need a shotgun. I don't. I have every other shotgun, but this one
But this one's
is
special.
like right. So, and they make me feel like I need to have it.
You gotta have it.
Right, and that's exactly what Destiny does, and I feel like that's the thing that like these big studios don't understand. And when games like the Suicide Squad come out, it's not a bad game. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not. but it's first of all, the first strike against it is this a DC property, and the internet is going to meme on it immediately for
Uh-huh.
being DC, because if it's not Marvel, then it's garbage according to the internet, right? And so, and then it being a live service game, it's going up against, and it's the same thing that happened with Marvel, right? With the Avengers game, and
Yeah.
this the Avengers game. You know
Yeah,
what?
that
You know what
that
happened to the game?
that tanked so hard.
Yeah, didn't give a fuck about it
Yeah.
until it was like a year later, and I walked into a GameStop, and
It
it
was
was
$5.
$5, and I bought it, and I brought it home, and I played it on my PlayStation, and I had a fucking ball with it because I played it like a beat 'em up. I didn't give a
Uh-huh.
shit about the end game. I didn't give a shit about loot boxes or any of the bullshit. I just played it, and you know what it did? It made me care about that Miss Marvel character that I didn't give a shit about before. But after playing that game, I was like, "Yo, she's cool. Like I enjoyed this." And so I feel I'm gonna have the same fucking the same reaction to Suicide Squad
Hmm.
once it's and in a couple of months. The game came out, I don't know, a couple months ago, whatever it is, and nobody cares about it. It's tanking. WB is like, oh my god, like it's such a like disaster. This, that, third. I don't give a shit. But once it's once it's $5 at GameStop, I'll buy it, I'll play it, I'll have a good time, and I'll be done with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying necessarily it's like a unplayable game or anything like that. I think the stressing of quality and smaller teams create, it seems like have been creating higher quality games, and I guess that's sort
Yeah,
of where this is all headed,
yeah.
now. And because we're gonna talk about Castlevania Lord of Shadows,
At some
which
point.
which yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have really much. I mean, I don't have much to talk about. I was playing. What I was going to talk about is that I went to East End Gaming here on Long Island in Oakdale again. This time I actually bought stuff because I came with a plan. So, the Xbox Series X does have backwards compatibility with certain original Xbox games. So I was like, you know what, maybe my friend Tin and I, we went up island here, and we went to a ramen place, and we went to the movies, and then we went to this gaming place, and I was like, let me like think of like, what do I want to, what can I get here that could, I don't have any old consoles really. So I just looked at the list of backwards compatible Xbox games, and I was like, I'll just buy these old games that I can play on my Series X. I mean, I know I can probably download them, but I was like, it'd be cool just to have the old cases at the house, or the apartment. Like Mitch, you get that. I mean, you get that very much.
100%. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I still have physical copies of most of the things that you're like, what if we play this next? And I'm like, yep, got it.
Do you
Look,
got you have Lords of Shadow 2 already, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I never
Yeah.
played it. You have it.
Oh man. Okay. Um, so I ended up getting a handful of games for about $60, I think it was. I got 5 games. I got Splinter Cell 1, Splinter Cell 2, which is Pandora Tomorrow, Splinter Cell
Yep.
3, which is Chaos
Yes.
Theory.
Yep.
Yep. And then I got Hunter the Reckoning. I got which is like that Diablo-esque
Yeah, yeah.
isometric, shoot demons game. Um I got Star Wars Starfighter, which is, I loved all the Star Wars games on the original Xbox. I think that was like I mean, I love the new I love the new the Respawn games that are coming out for Star Wars, but
Yeah, yeah.
that era of Star Wars games for the Xbox, like every single one of them was good. All of them were good. So I'm gonna get all the Star Wars Xbox games at some point, just to have
Look,
the cases. Yep.
can we take just a brief pause real quick?
Oh, you're gonna go? Okay, so I'll keep talking.
Yeah, you keep talking. I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
he's gotta get that Dr. Pep. They got Dr. Pepper out.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got Star Wars Starfighter, and I also got Crimson Skies. So my job that I've now put on myself is to get more of those games that are backwards compatible. And there's also 360 games that are backwards compatible and by disc only, which means that you can't download the game off the store, you'd actually need to have the disc. So the only way you can actually play these games anymore is if you have the disc. One of them is 50 Cent's Blood in the Sand, which I will absolutely be getting and revisiting. So that's something to look forward to for me. So I started actually playing Splinter Cell, the first one again, since the last time I played it was when it first came out on the Xbox, and I rented it from Blockbuster. And Splinter Cell from 2002 is just as good as it was then as it is now. That's a great game. I really love it. Um, it's a shame that that series is kind of gone to die in the Ubisoft the void. Um, I will say I really do miss that era of Ubisoft though, back when they were really developing game, like they actually had like a weird collection of games. Like if you look on the disc, like one of the trailers they have is for Rocky. They did like a Rocky Balboa game and that game 13, which is that shooter that was like a comic book. And I was like, yeah, this is like a really cool time for Ubisoft. And I'm gonna after this I'm gonna do Pandora tomorrow. And then I'm gonna do
I
Chaos
would,
Theory. What's that?
yeah, Pandora. So, uh, so like that meme where it's like stealth is like an option for this mission, and then they like put Rambo when he's like shooting the
Yeah.
M60. That's typically me, but I loved Splinter Cell,
Yeah.
and when part two came out, that was kind of when I was kind of getting my feet wet with online gaming.
Oh, sure.
And so I was kind of meeting people and like making friends online for the first time in my life, and some of them I'm still friends with this day. And so uh my buddy Frozen was super into the multiplayer on Pandora tomorrow, and so we played a lot of that game. And that's so good. I still feel like so many games that come out and they're like, obviously a single player intended experience, but they do add, a multiplayer on it. It just feels
Uh-huh.
tacked on.
Yeah.
But Pandora Tomorrow was not tacked on. It was a
Uh-huh.
whole new mode. It's a mode that I feel like we haven't even seen really since,
Uh-huh.
and it's so the spies versus mercs.
Uh-huh.
Like we don't have that. You know what I mean? And like that shit was so good.
Yeah, so yeah, so when Pandora came out, tomorrow came out, yeah, they added the multiplayer, which was at that time, I mean, Xbox Live was a baby, was a little baby,
Yep.
and they that was a big selling point for that game, and it had a different developing team. That was Ubisoft Beijing, and the first game was Ubisoft Montreal, and Chaos Agent, or sorry, Chaos Theory went back to Ubisoft Montreal. Now, Chaos Theory is the one people absolutely love, that game. And I've never played it. So I'm really excited to work my way through the first two games, which I have played, and then play Chaos Theory. So,
Yeah,
um,
I know. Like at some point, like the when it moved to the 360, like Sam Fisher, like kind of became like an anti-hero. Like they were like hunting him
yeah.
down. Yeah,
Yeah, like he gets the third echelon is like, evaporated from the US government, and like whatever. They have to like, he's become man on the run or whatever. But the games, like I think I have Blacklist on my Series X.
yeah.
It's just
Well,
I mean it's a fine game, but it's not Splinter Cell to me. So
yeah,
that's the
I
thing.
agree.
And plus Michael Ironside's voice wasn't in it.
Well, that's
So
the
that
thing, right? It's like imagine a character that's so fucking like ingrained in like pop culture that fucking Michael Ironsides doesn't voice him, but then Kiefer Sutherland does, and people are like, "What the fuck? This is not." I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean Michael Ironside's voice for Sam Fisher is so perfect. It's just
Mhm.
it's just so good.
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
but been play I've been cruising through the new. I've been cruising through the old Splinter Cell this past 24 hours. I'm like more than halfway through. It's pretty short. I'm at the CIA level right now. And that's where you can't kill anybody.
yeah.
once you it's man, like once you can't kill anybody, it gets real hard because
Yeah,
you're
no
like,
shit. Like I said,
and there's still things that
like
like it's kind of like it's Xbox time, so like things don't just exactly work the right way sometimes. So like you make a sound by accident, it's just like
mhm.
whoop, the alarms go off and they just shoot you.
Lit-
Um,
there were literally levels in like those early Splinter Cell games. So I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
mhm.
Because I was like, all right, well, there's like 19 people like patrolling this area, and you want me to be quiet? Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah. And I will say, so like with the backwards compatibility games, what they do is that not you don't just are able to play them. What they do is they like provide like some like HDR like smoothing stuff on the game on the look of it.
Yeah,
And so the game looks very crisp and clear. So it's a lot easier to kind of see them like see what you're looking at and where you should go. It's a lot more easier than it used to be when you're playing on like CRT TVs or
yeah.
whatever. It's just not as dark. I just remember it being a lot darker, and it's not that at all. So, and I discovered that there was a bunch of Splinter Cell novels, and I was like,
No, I saw that. I
I was
was very
like,
excited when I saw that tweet.
I was like, I think I'll start getting into these.
Yeah,
So there's a whole bunch of very well received Tom Clancy Splinter Cell novels written by mostly one guy. So I think I'll check them out and see how they are. At least the first
yeah.
one.
We gotta get him on here. We gotta get him on
Yeah,
the show.
yeah. Let's see if he's still around. Maybe he wants to talk about him. But anyway, so that's really been it. Shout out to East End Gaming on Long Island and Oakdale. Y'all are doing the Lord's work. That place is incredible. Really great prices for games, for old games. A lot of good collectible stuff that's very expensive.
Hey man, I was jealous. I ain't gonna lie. When I saw like when I saw the post,
Yeah.
because I don't know what it is. Every like every time like something like this comes up, I'm like, it can't just be me, right? I can't be the only one here who would like appreciate this stuff. But like, there's nothing. There's nothing here. Like, there's no stores. Even Atlanta, which is like the biggest city, I guess, in like the vicinity, like to where I am. There's no like retro game stores. There's like if you look up retro gaming Atlanta, they give you like 19 hits for GameStops. There's no store. Like it's just like I don't understand it because I'm like it can't just be me, right? But apparently it is. It's just me. So
Well, sorry everyone. I'm having some sort of like reaction to something today. I woke up with.
he's
My eyes are
allergic to my bullshit,
Yeah,
and
I woke up and I was sneezing, and this is how it's just been all
I'm
day.
coming in
So
hot
yeah.
with the bullshit tonight. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we have Long Island's pretty big, but I don't have anything like really close to me. This place is about an hour away. But well worth it because I'll be going back with my friend to get he's like really into like retro game collecting. I'm kind of like very like focused on
hey,
just
man,
this one task I have right now.
spoiler
That's
alert,
like
but I'm sending you a list.
I mean, what do you need? What are you looking for the most?
Well, so first of all, like I think we talked about it like on the soft launch of the show, but like yeah, your boy's working on a Dreamcast, a full set.
Oh,
So
right. Yeah, I know they have some pretty expensive Dreamcast games there in a glass case, so I'm not
yeah,
sure.
and like I could buy them online, but I really don't want to. Like I kind of want to find this stuff. Like it's more exciting for me to like be like, oh my god, look at that. So
Okay, so next time I know to look at the Dreamcast games, give you some prices, and then mail them to you. Um, did you play anything else outside of Lords of Shadow or Destiny that comes to mind? No, nothing. Just
no,
Lords of Shadow's pretty long, I said.
it is. This is the first one that we've done where I was like, I was so I had like some family stuff going on, and I was legitimately worried that like I wouldn't finish the game before we did the show. So like I ended up having to use like a guide and stuff. But I did play. I started. I've been doing this thing like if you have Game Pass, they have like these like challenges that you do for like points for Microsoft, and I set a thing for like 46,000 points, and you get a $50 gift card, like an Xbox gift card, if you get the 50,000. And I've been doing it for years. And so one of the daily like quests that you have to do is like play a Game Pass game. Um, so and then I have like weekly ones and like monthly ones and this and that, and like obviously your reward is like higher based on what you're doing. So uh, so I started High on Life.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is 1,000,000% not my thing.
So
I don't give a fuck.
I was gonna say, do you like Rick and Morty, or you're just like
I
whatever?
don't. I don't give a
Okay.
shit about Rick and Morty. Don't.
It's
I don't.
like you really won't like that game then.
No. And so this game is just annoying as fuck. It's just, and it's like you're holding this alien gun that won't shut the fuck up. It will not shut the fuck up. Like it's constant. And I was like, this is, oh my god. But the thing is, like the gameplay, like the shooting and like the other things, it's good. And so I was like, well, if I'm gonna, be trying to find something to do just to get my points for the day, I just kept like booting it back up. And at this point, unfortunately, I'm into it. Like,
Pretty soon you'll be watching Rick and Morty. You're just gonna get like have Rick and Morty plushes in your house. You're gonna be
no, that's not that.
you're gonna be defending the sexual misconduct allegations
Well,
of what's his
well, I don't know
face.
about that, but I will say, like, for many years, until a few years ago, I worked at the only comic book store in Auburn. I'm in Alabama, so Auburn is a major college here, and we had one comic book store, and I worked there for many years. And they had this thing where they had like the Rick Mobile that was like kind of driving across the country, and it was like a pop up for Rick and Morty, where and they sold like merch and like and stuff, and so like they came to Alabama and they wanted to show up in Auburn because it's a college town, and so I had already quit the kind of the store and been like, yeah, I can't, I'm not gonna work anymore. And then the owner, John, he was like, well, these people like reached out to me and they're gonna do this thing. Can you just at least, work this thing, and you can work at the store and I'll be outside with the thing. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. So that was my last day at work at the comic book store in Auburn, was this like Rick and Morty Rick Mobile that pulled up. And
Proper
it was,
send off.
I was like, and I literally, like, this was one of my last like Instagram posts, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck any of this is, and I feel really old today.
What
And
are these kids watching? I don't know what this
right,
is.
I don't know what any of this is. I don't like any of this.
Yeah. Where's the X-Files pop-up van? Where's David Duchovny? Bring him out again.
Even X Files. I'm not an X Files guy. So even
Whoa, that's
um,
shocking. I feel like you're like prime real estate for X-Files.
well, so here's the thing about the X Files. Nobody cares. This is the worst episode of this show you'll ever do. So what happened with the X Files was I worked at a textile plant uh, right out of high school, and I worked a shift that was 4 in the afternoon till midnight. So I missed Buffy, I missed the X
Oh
Files. Like,
man.
I
That
didn't get to
was
see that.
that was so like when I was a young boy, that was like TV at night at that like in 98 or whatever that
Yep, that's when it was. Yep.
yeah, peak time was. Oh man, like from like 7 to 10, it was like Star Trek The Next Generation, Buffy, The X-Files. Like I was in that seat watching that TV. It was so good. Oh man, that was good. That was a good run of TV right there.
Yep, I missed it.
Sorry, dude. Yeah, and it
Ah,
wasn't like you could just watch it on your phone the next day.
no, back then it was like you either watched it when it was on or you didn't fucking see it.
You
I
look for
didn't.
a look for a TV guide of when it would be programmed next. Man, what a crazy time we were living in.
I remember like when I was living in Atlanta with at the apartment. I remember when the FX channel became a thing
Yeah.
and it started like showing like reruns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited because they started showing Buffy. But
Yeah.
then Buffy like became like I guess one of their most popular like shows. And so they would show like 4 hours a night of Buffy. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, I like it, but gee, oh my God. Like I'm not trying to like I got other shit to do. Like I'm not gonna sit here for 4 fucking hours. So like
Yeah. And you couldn't just like skip an episode because then you'd be lost.
exactly.
So you'd have to watch the 4 hours of television. See,
Yeah.
kids that are listening, you couldn't just be like, oh well, I'll just catch up later. It was like, no, you had to watch it all then, or because they're gonna keep going without you.
You're right. Imagine whatever like the new hotness on Netflix is. And they're like, you binge it or you don't fucking see it.
I mean, it's gonna get to that point. They're just gonna like put it out for a weekend. Like we had to pull it because of tax reasons. That's what I was envisioning this future where we announce like new projects, like we never actually watch anything because it's just like it feels like everything's getting like canceled before it's out. And I don't mean canceled in like the cancel culture way. I mean like
That's why I
people,
don't watch shows, man. That's why
yeah,
like this episode of Werewolves is gonna be like the last two are gonna be so weird because I've just watched shows and I don't watch shows. And that's why. Because I'm like, well, why am I gonna invest 8 hours of my life to something that got fucking canceled and it doesn't matter?
right. Oh yeah, that's the worst feeling. Yeah, I hate
Yep.
that feeling. Um, yeah, let's talk about Lords of Shadow. That's a video. That's a
Is
video
that what we're
game.
doing?
Yeah, that's a video game with a capital V, capital G.
Yes.
It is
Oh
it is
my god.
it is a video game. That's what I would call a video game. So Castlevania Lords of Shadow came out in 2010, was developed by Mercury Steam, published by Konami. Also guest producer credits to Hideo Kojima with Kojima Productions. We'll get into that a little bit. Super weird, super
Yep.
weird situation here. So Mercury Steam is a Spanish game development studio. They work out of Spain. They were previously had done before this. They did Clive Barker's Jericho, which I don't know if you've played
A
that
great
video.
game.
Was that?
I love that game.
Yeah. So
Great game.
that's a game we're talking about by itself because it is so weird and like everything about
Mhm.
it is really weird and Clive Barker's involvement's weird. The whole thing's weird, and that's worth it. And it's like a squad-based first-person shooter, and I have it for the PlayStation 3
Quad
still.
based Hellraiser shooter.
A
Like,
squad-based
my God.
Hellraiser shoot, yeah. It is wild. I miss when Clive Barker was more involved with game production. He did a few games, and I miss that. I miss Clive. I kind of miss that guy anyway. I haven't really heard much from Clive these days. Wait, he didn't
I
die,
do
did he?
too. Even the books. I'm just like he's just such a weird motherfucker, and like I feel like he's missing from like
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's still alive. Phew.
media.
Okay, he's still alive. I was like, oh my God, did Clive Barker die?
Yeah, he's still alive, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, well, he had so like I think about 5 years ago there was a new Hellraiser book that came out called The Scarlet Gospels.
Charlie
And,
Watson, which I think is like the death of Pinhead or something.
yeah,
That was like
and I read
that
it.
was kind of like the selling point.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it. I read it. I'm a big Barker fan. I love Books of Blood. I love all of
What was
all,
that? What was that like weird kind of universe? He was Magica or some shit like
oh,
that. And he was
right.
like doing his like kind of fantasy like world and
Yeah,
shit
oh
like
my
that.
God. I have it in right behind me. I could just go grab it, but I can't think of it. It's come here, you. Was it not the Thief of Always? Was that part of it?
I
Uh was that part of it? I feel like the Thief of Always was Weave World. Was that it was
yeah,
Weave World. I think Thief of
like yeah,
Always
it's
was
still
part
like
of it.
this kind of fantasy world he was kind of building and stuff. And like most of his books back then were like part of that and stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I miss Clive Barker. That dude's a big weirdo, and
Mhm.
he just always made really weird stuff. But anyways, he made a few video games. Anyways, where I was going with this, Mercury Steam did so they developed Clive Barker's Jericho, which is a really odd game, and worth maybe we cover that. Maybe we cover that next time. I don't know. That'd be kind of fun. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm trying. I definitely have it for. I have it on my PlayStation 3. I want to see if I can get a copy and play it on Das Xbox. We'll see. Um. So. Anyway, let's. So before that,
Mhm.
let me. My love for Castlevania is probably less than yours. I think you're a bigger Castlevania fan than I am. I really love Castlevania as a series. I think it's really just weird and cool. I liked the animated show that came out on Netflix. I thought that. Did you
Yeah.
watch that?
Yeah, I did. So the
Yeah.
only reason I watched it, I'm not an anime person. I don't
Right.
like it.
Yeah.
Um, but Warren Ellis wrote that, and I'm a big, big Warren Ellis fan.
Uh-huh.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So that was they did a. I feel like that was a really good um adaptation of like the Castlevania lore as we kind of know it. I don't know. There's really the lore is kind of weird. There's like no real like canonical thing, sort of. There's like
Well, for
there's the Belmonts that hunt the vampires and the things that go
that's
bump in
it,
the night.
right?
Yeah, you
It's
have
as simple
Alucard,
as that.
the sun, like you have
And
that.
that's the problem. That's the problem with this game. Like it's a concept that's so at base level so simple. It's like Dracula is resurrected and tries to come back, and this bloodline, their job is to like shut that shit down.
Uh-huh.
That's all it is. That's
Yeah.
all it has to be.
Vlad Tepish is
Right. It's like,
Dracula's
well,
name.
it's like it's Dracula over here and the Belmonts are over here,
Yeah.
and they have
And
to stop each other.
they fight each
That's
other all
it.
the time. That's it. It's really I guess it's less lore and it's more like, oh, we have this collection of characters that do this thing. But there isn't like a particularly like involved storyline. And what they wanted to do with Lords of Shadow is create one of those um to a very mixed bag, I feel like. But
Yep.
so I would say for me, Castlevania, like Symphony of the Night, love that game. I played that on
Yep.
the PlayStation 1. That game's awesome. I would
Yep.
say I've played other Castlevania games, but I would say that Symphony of the Night is the the place where I start and stop my appreciation of like Castle. Like that's kind of like it. Like that defines Castlevania for me, right?
Well, that's the one that like almost like created a new genre of video game, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they call them Metroidvanias for a reason.
yeah, yeah. It's and that's also really interesting about the Metroid thing because Mercury Steam ended up um uh developing the Metroid games for Nintendo. They did Metroid Dread recently. So
Yeah.
very interesting the very
Well,
interesting lineage with that. But so Castlevania means a lot to you or more so, Mitch. So you tell me about them NES days, them Super NES days.
this yes. So yeah. So I we kind of talked about this a little bit, but before, but I my introduction to video games was the Nintendo, like the NES, right? And I remember, my me and my brother, would go to like someone like our parents' friend's house and stuff, and like their kids would have games, and it was the Atari, and so we wanted video games for Christmas, and like it just happened to be that that year the NES was like the new thing, and so that's what we got for Christmas, and we cried because there was no joystick, and there was more than one button, and we were like, I don't know how to use. I don't, what is this? Like we don't know how to use it, and so I remember. So yeah, So that was my introduction to kind of to home video games. And then my dad was very much like Universal Monsters. Like my dad's like why I love horror. Like he was super into like like Lon Chaney and like Bela Lugosi, like all the
The
Universal.
OGs, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was his birthday. I'll never forget this. It was his birthday, and we went to. So I grew up in a small town in Alabama, and we went to. There was this town in Georgia that had a mall, and so like we went we went to the mall and went to KB Toys or whatever the store was called at the time, right? And they had he so for his birthday, my dad bought Castlevania because he wanted to watch us play it. Like he didn't want to play games himself, but he was into it to the point to where he was like they had this. You've seen like that classic cover, right, of Castlevania, the first one.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like an old like cartoon horror movie or something. You got the whip
Right.
and the the
Yeah.
the
So
Dracula's
like
face is
Dracula's face is
yeah.
up there, like yeah. So he saw that and he was like, so he bought Castlevania for his birthday, but for us. And
Nice.
so that was my introduction to the series. And I was I good at it? No. But like anytime that I put that game in, did dad like come into the room and like sit down and watch and like laugh at how bad I was? Yes. So that was kind of like, kind of my introduction. And then like I remember when Simon's Quest came out, um mom had she my mom is like she's kind of like me, she's kind of artistic and this and that, like she does certain things. And so we had this like country fair, and so she was like making like like you know um these wooden like Christmas ornaments and like all this other stuff, like just country ass. If you don't live here, you don't know what I'm talking about, right? Like
She's making creative mom stuff.
yeah, but like like the people here were like wanting their kitchen or like on the like she like these things, or it was like a goose, but like with this like it was like smiling and shit, but like they had like it had this like stick, and like you would put like a paper towel roll on it, and so it was like this like goose that would like give you paper towels. It doesn't matter, but I remember like it was shit like that, right? And me and my brother were like at the country fair, and then like they had like these like rubber band guns that you would shoot, and they had like nunchucks and shit, and they had like Ninja Turtle masks. It's all like the shit that you would just waste your money on because it was bullshit. But like she made so much
Cool.
money on her stuff, and then we were like, "Can we get a Nintendo game?" And she was like, "Yeah, you can, no problem." It was like she made bank, right? And so like she bought Castlevania 2, and we were like, this is awful. Like this, nobody understands. Like this doesn't make any sense. And so, like, like Simon's Quest was the first game I ever played where I was like, I, I don't understand this. We need help. And they had these VHS tapes back then, and they would do like these walkthroughs. Yeah, like now
That was
when
it
you
was it
watch.
was it was like YouTube
Exactly. It was
then.
YouTube before YouTube was the thing, and they had these like tapes, and we used to like we had them, and I was like, yo, so you would watch like how to get through Simon's Quest or how to get through like the first TMNT game when you got to the Terror Drone, that portion of that game where it was like this top down kind of thing, and you had to like drive, you know, in the right sequence to get to. My God, I've ruined the podcast. Yo, what's up, baby? I'm out here on my own, talking about old things. I'm old. Love y'all. Anyway, he's back.
Sorry, I had to get more. I'm like my nose
No,
is running.
this
I
is
had to
gonna be
get tissue.
the worst episode.
This is the best user experience, the best listening experience. Just
Oh my God.
blowing my nose into the
Yeah,
mic.
that probably would have been better than like leaving me alone.
Mitch, talk about your feelings. Bye. Where were we? Sorry. We were talking about Simon's Quest.
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh,
We
okay,
should
got it.
talk
Great,
about
great.
the thing we're actually here to talk about.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Lords of Shadow. Um, so Lords of Shadow is a weird thing that happened because
Hmm?
so Konami was at like a turning point with the Castlevania series. It was one of their most beloved series. It sold a bunch of units on every system they had, but as they kind of experimented more on like the PlayStation 1 with more like 3D Castlevania games, like the sales were really starting to dip and people were not caring. Um, Also, there was like a Wii Castlevania game that came out in 2009 that did very poorly,
Did
wasn't very good. What's
the
that?
Wii did the Wii did so I'm not a Wii person. I never
Sure.
liked Wii, but they did a weird fighting game that was Castlevania, like a Castlevania fighter, like 1v1 fighter that I
Yeah,
bought.
yeah. So there was a weird 2009 Wii Castlevania game that so you remember when we were talking about doing this and we were like I was like, well, it's supposed to like Lords of Shadow was actually supposed to be like a different game or something like that. And that's because no, but and that was kind of true and kind of not. So what really happened is that Lords of Shadow was in production as just Lords of Shadow without Castlevania attached to it because this Wii game came out a year before and they didn't want to get any like market confusion about the game and when like development stuff leaked out. So so what it really was is that Konami was like, we really want to reboot Castlevania. Like we want to make it for the current age and we want to do something brand new. We want to reboot it, new mythos, everything. So they brought in so they brought in Mercury Steam and part of the Konami uh production side was this British guy named David Cox who of the two quotes I have so yeah the two quotes that I have is from him and he's kind of a strange little guy but he was kind of tasked with making this game and making it and kind of whipping Mercury Steam into making this game good. Now the thing, so how Hideo Kojima got involved was Kojima saw what Mercury Steam was trying to do with this game when they brought it before Konami, and Kojima was like, "Listen, I'll support this game. I'll help them out with things here and there. If it goes poorly, you can blame me, more or less." And they were like, okay. And Kojima was like, Kojima was a Konami darling, and Castlevania is a Konami darling. So they were like,
Yeah.
well, we got to make sure, which fast forward, Konami no longer is a doing business with Kojima. But
Right.
so so essentially they had to create this whole new game. And so they took a lot of influences from games at the time, sort of. The weird thing about
No,
Lord
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a weird thing about Lords of Shadow is that it was 2010, it was on the 360 PS3 era, but it feels kind of like a PS2 game.
Yep.
And so it feels sort of like a God of War game. And
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
so David Cox, when he was doing around the interviews, like people would say like, oh, this is very similar to God of War. And like he hated that question apparently. But there is a video of
I
him
mean,
wait, so there is I have a video that I'm going to put in the show notes of him where he talks about it's like similarities with God of War, but then you'd hate when
Jesus
people,
Christ.
but you'd hate when people brought up God of War, and it's like, dude, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
Um,
it might as well have been a fucking sequel.
yeah, like it's very, very, very similar to like God of War formula. Um, so the reason why like the story of Lords of Shadow is very silly, which is
Yep.
the best way I can put it. It stars Gabrielle Belmont, who is a Belmont, which later on, which will spoil this game's ending, is sort of ridiculous that he's named a Belmont. But anyway,
Yep.
he oh sorry, not Gabrielle Belmont, voiced none other by Robert Carlyle, by the way, of Full Monty and 28 Weeks Later. Um, is part of like this holy knight situation. He's like a holy knight, and
Brotherhood.
he's yeah, this brotherhood, and his wife has been recently uh murked by apparently one of these Lords of Shadows. And so he's on like a revenge quest to like find it out. And so like his mentor or coworker is a guy named Zobek, who's voiced by Patrick Stewart. Which I mean, there's so many odd choices. Like how they got these people is beyond me. Like I know Patrick
I
Stewart
know.
was
I
Patrick,
know.
yeah, like Patrick Stewart. I know did voice work for like Oblivion and for Bethesda. Like he's done voice acting. Like it's not weird, but it's weird that he was attached to this along with Robert Carlyle.
Mm.
Um, and then also Kojima being attached as a producer. But
Yeah.
so they essentially go out to kill the Lords of Shadows because the Lords of Shadows are preventing the spirits of the dead to go to heaven. That's about it.
Yep.
Gabriel, in your adventure as Gabriel, whatever his name is, you move to all these different set pieces that are sort of kind of loosely pieced together, and you figure out puzzles, you engage in combat,
Oh, so many puzzles.
so many puzzles. You ride so many things at the beginning, and then that's not
Yep.
a thing later.
Oh,
So it the story's not great. I don't. Also, one of the other reviews with David Cox, because he was like the main PR guy for this whole thing, is they were like, well, what separates you from like because you have to remember in 2010 Uncharted 2 came out, which is a far superior game in a lot of ways.
yes.
And so they were like asking about comparisons to that because like how do you like stack up against Uncharted 2 right now? It's like one of the, I still think Uncharted 2 is one of the best games I've ever played. But they were
That's
like,
my favorite one. Like, depending on what day you ask me, like it's either 2 or 4 is my
yeah,
favorite Uncharted.
yeah, it's definitely 2 for me. I love that game. I think it's just it's so good.
Yep.
But and in his response, David was like, "Oh well, where we really thrive is like in our storytelling and our characters." And I was like, "Dude, did
Nope.
you play this game?" Now I can't
Yeah.
fault Dave. I can't fault this guy David Cox because it seemed like he really, really cared about Castlevania. Like it was like one of his favorite series. Like he talks about it in depth a lot about Castlevania, like all the really nerdy stuff. So you know what, the
Yep.
dude really loved it, but he definitely said some really weird things on the press tour. Um,
Yeah. I mean, hey, man. It's one of those things where it's like, as someone who's basically played video games like my whole life, um, I've just recently like
you got it.
admitted that Destiny 2 is probably my favorite video game of all time because before that, no matter like how many I've spent thousands of hours in Destiny, and I was always like, uh Super Castlevania 4 is the greatest game of all time. And
I
like
mean,
that was,
that
I
that
was like adamant that was my favorite game. And so it wasn't until recently where I was finally kind of like, I should probably be like, Destiny. Like Destiny's probably my favorite. Destiny 2 is probably like my favorite game,
Uh-huh.
but I have such a history with Castlevania.
But he also stated that 4 was also his favorite as well. And he thinks that was
I
his.
mean, hey man, until just very recently, I would have always said that's my favorite game of all time.
Yeah. No, um so the story's kind of weird because you have a Belmont, he's in this Holy Night thing, which doesn't really make, there's no story of the Belmonts. There's nothing really like that in the story. Um
Yeah,
and essentially uh it really is just sort of set piece to set piece, beat a bunch of monsters, figure out a bunch of puzzles.
yeah.
Um
It's interesting because like the original like Castlevania games were like kind of, I don't want to call them platformers, but it was like you go from left to right, and they have monsters, and you fight and stuff like that. And there are like definitely levels that there are different ways to go through them.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was you're this person and you go from left to right.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of like you know um, the why they call them Metroidvanias, right? Is because of Symphony of the Night.
Yeah,
Because
because you had the whole level and like the whole, you could explore the whole castle, but you can only
right,
access certain parts of the castle with certain abilities that you
right,
had to
and so you got
find.
like the abilities and stuff like that, yeah. And so this game, came out when it did, and it certainly you could definitely tell that like whoever like the suits in the you know the the boardroom were like, whoa, what does everybody like these days? And they're like, oh, they like this game God of War. And like, all right, bet. Well, what do we have that we could like,
Rebrand.
yeah, what could we paint uh this type of game, like this like coat of paint for what IP do we have that would work with that? And they're like, oh shit, this Castlevania. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh shit. It's like, these like, monsters and werewolves, and it has a whip and all this stuff. And they're like, oh shit, makes perfect sense.
Let's go for it.
Exactly what this game is. Like it's just every like, for better or worse, it's every idea that some asshole in a boardroom who was like trying to save their job, you know, like to make video games. They're like, oh shit.
So it's true. I mean, the this game throws a lot of things into the mixture. Like it has like a lot of different, they decided to throw a lot of things in, not make all of them particularly great. I think the combat, like I think the magic system with the combat, where if you use shadow magic versus light magic and you can do either like healing or damage more, I
Yeah,
think that's pretty cool. And like I
it's
think,
good, but it's also really convoluted.
yeah,
And
it is really convoluted because then they start like, later they're like, well, you can only like kill certain enemies if they're a certain
yeah,
color with this.
yes,
Like, all right, you're like, all
Jesus
right, all right.
Christ. Yeah,
But I like the way that like when you fling the iron whip chain around, like it's very heavy and it feels like you're actually doing that. Like to me, that was like a satisfying part to it. There was puzzles and things that I felt used a lot of like what we call moon logic, which is sort of like you don't like, it doesn't like you, it's sort of like difficult to figure out exactly how they want you to do the puzzle. So like
yeah.
for me the most annoying, well, not the most annoying case for me was the music box level, because
Oh, so
because the music box level as its design is very frustrating, and it's made more frustrating because you have to do a lot of like platforming and
yes,
the
but
kind of
it's
whack.
also like it's also the most fan service like level in this entire shit.
Yes.
If you don't give a shit about like Castlevania or you don't know what Castlevania is, yes, that level, that whole thing is super annoying. But if you know Castlevania and you're like, especially if you like the music,
Yes,
it's
the music
so good.
the
It
music
was
is
so good,
awesome. Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
I liked it. I love that shit so much.
But
But also, like, I understand why people would be like aggravated with it.
because your boy Belmont, he don't jump really well. So like when you have to jump from like all the platforms, it's just sort of like
Like, you gotta have the flash boots, and you gotta have the jumpy
yeah.
wings and shit like that. Like, it's, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, if you just approach it and you just listen to the music, it's so good.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so good.
the music that plays on the music box is a great homage. It's
Yeah,
super.
it's literally like the original like Castlevania thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. And then you're trying to get these. It the why you're doing it doesn't really make sense. Like Baba Yaga
Oh my
shrinks you
God, good
down.
Lord, no! But
Like
also that, like,
yeah,
for better or worse, it doesn't have to make sense. But I'm like, yo, they're like Baba Yaga, and I'm like, oh, 100%, I'm in.
yeah, they got yeah. They're like we got Baba Yaga now. She's gonna shrink you into this music box, and you have to collect things for her, and then she will let you get out of the music box and help you on your journey. It's sort of it's really strange. So just to speak to Kojima's real role in this whole entire thing is he helped with so apparently for the original design of Gabriel, he was going to be sort of like more brutish, more barbarian like, and Kojima was like, why don't we yassify him and make him more handsome? And that's
Work.
really to appeal to Western audiences. And then also for the localization in Japan, he had a lot of the Metal Gear Solid voice actors do the voice acting in the game. So that was his contribution. He kind of gave Mercury Steam a whole bunch of leeway to make the game. Because he just liked them, I guess. I guess he liked them. He liked their spirit. So and it turned out to work somehow. Like this game's janky. It's all over the place. It's a little bloated. It's not very Castlevania-y.
It's not Castlevania at all. That's kind of like we kind of like, we've been texting cause over the past couple of weeks, and I was like, this is the least Castlevania shit I've ever Castlevania.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not an anime person, and this is very much kind of felt like an anime thing. But
Yeah, a little. As the anime guy, I want to say, like, maybe the ending, yes.
yeah,
I would say, most of it, like, it's very silly and over the top that anime can be like that, but, like, uh, I do feel like at least anime, there's usually, like, a better story or better characters. This.
yeah, well, right, like like regardless, whether you like anime, I don't, or you do.
I do.
Uh, it's like it, it's nonsense for a lot of it, and like I don't necessarily need like my Castlevania to make sense,
Sure. Yeah.
but
No, for sure. It doesn't need to make sense.
right. So, but but it's like yeah, they're like, oh my God, look, oh, she's gonna like there's this girl and she has this golem and like she
Oh,
can
yeah.
help him, and
Yeah,
then it's like,
the mute backflip girl.
but then it's like, oh, 7 seconds later, you murked her, and
And then you fight her golem companion.
right, and I'm like, why? Like,
Yeah.
why?
And then
Why?
she shows up again at the end
She does,
randomly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Say goodbye. It
Well, it's like, and we talk about this too, and I almost like spoil it, but it's like once you get to the end and like you're watching, like you the credits are rolling, and then there's like this sequence, and I'm like, wait, like, are they are they implying that Gabriel is Dracula? And I'm
Okay,
like,
okay, wait. I want to get to this. I want to get to this. Wait, 1 second. One second.
I'm just saying.
1 second. I know, but like, let's just talk about the ending in just like 5 minutes. But what I wanted to say is that um the game, it came out to very, very mixed reviews, right? I mean, that's probably pretty fair. I would say like as a game, my feelings on it, like as like like it's a mixed bag of a game. I think I liked it. I enjoyed my time with it, but it's definitely like all over the place and can be like very frustrating and just it's
Oh
weird.
my
It's a
god, yeah, man. Hey,
weird
hey,
game.
like I played this before you and I talked about like doing a show about it. And again, like I'm a big Castlevania person, and I had forgotten a lot of it um, until I revisited it for this, and like, but like everything, I was like, what the fuck? That I was like back then, it was the same now. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is this?
You're like, oh yeah, I know why I forgot this because none of
Yeah,
it
like,
makes any sense and nothing's memorable, which is a
no.
shame. So, but even to mixed reviews, and a lot of comparisons to games that are just objectively better games than it. Um, it still shipped 1 million units in its first month, which is quite a few video games for a month.
Oh,
And Konami
Konami,
was,
Castlevania. Yeah.
yeah, Konami was super happy with it, and it still is the best Castlevania game, the best selling Castlevania game of all time.
Oh, Jesus. I was about to say, wait just a second. So
Yeah, so currently it still has
it's
sold
not the best
the
Castlevania.
yeah, no, so it currently has sold the best is the best selling Castlevania game, which is, I mean, it's crazy to me, but it they did it. Um so just to talk about the gameplay a little bit, I wanted to read, and then we'll talk well, I'm gonna read these two quotes by David Cox of Konami, and then we'll talk about the ending of the game, which I think is it's got me hyped to play the second one. So,
Jesus. We had very different
so,
experiences.
okay, so this is actually a interview David Cox did for wow, for Lords of Shadow 2. He was also doing the PR racket for the second game as well. But it ties into the first game. So he said he's talking about the first game. He's like, we learned a lot. The thing that about game development, you make a lot of mistakes. Lords of Shadow, we made a lot of mistakes. 60 people made
Yep.
that game. 60 people made that game, by the way, just so you know. We
Wow.
thought, yeah, which it's you kind of like, okay, well, that's kind of cool if 60 people made that video game.
Yeah.
We thought that game as a whole was strong. I would say, sure. I would say it's a yeah, it was good, well received. Not it wasn't well received, but but as a team, we thought we could do better, and we've attempted to do that with Lords of Shadow 2, especially on the exploration side, going from area to area in the first game with the Patrick Stewart narration was actually a cover up for the game taking forever to load. A lot of people like it, and I think it works. But having a world that feels seamless, where you go wherever you want and there's no loading, you never feel you're ever leaving the world, but still part of it every turn. That's something we've always wanted for this title. It's funny he says that because for me, I think breaking up the game the way it did allowed you to kind of go back and replay levels if you wanted to get once you got like
Yeah.
unlocked certain skills and stuff like that. So like I didn't really
Right.
see it as like a it wasn't immersive, like a lost immersion because of that. It actually felt more Castlevania because of that in some
Well,
ways.
yeah. So I feel like that was very much you kind of what they did, where it was like, Castlevania as a brand or an IP had become what we know Castlevania to be now, where it's like there's a map and you can get to certain things now and you can't get to them until later.
Yep.
And so that's kind of like that was the problem with this game because the first one. And so it was them trying Konami trying to um move into a third person God of War kind of game, but also like stick to what Castlevania had become at that point. Um, and like that's when I hear someone who does these interviews and they're like, well, it was received well, but we needed to do this. I'm like, no, like it was like to do this episode with you. This is the first one where I had to be like, I had to go to like YouTube and look up a guide. I spent so many fucking hours lost because I didn't know what the fuck they wanted me to do.
Yeah, and it was like
And
you had to
so,
jump on some ledge you couldn't see that was shining, but it wasn't really that shiny.
right, right. And so, yeah, so I understand from like a perspective from people who are expected to make these games and make money,
Mm-hmm.
and when that doesn't work out, I understand like them being like, yo, like this was the problem from their, you know, perception, but like they also maybe aren't really gamers, and so and don't give a shit about Castlevania, and so like it's not that it was a bad game, and it's not, and it's not that I'm not excited to play the sequel, but um
I'm so excited to play Lords of Shadow too.
this was terrible. Can we play more?
Yes,
Yay!
yes,
Like, it's
yes.
not,
No,
it wasn't
so
terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was not my favorite Castlevania. Like
no, for sure. And I think Lords of Shadow is more interesting to me as a thing that exists more than like experience to have. And it seems that they took the feedback from this first game and then made some other weird choices with Lords of Shadow too. So I'm really excited to just see where they decided to go with that. I did hear that it's more Castlevania-y, it's more gothic-y. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm excited to play Lords of Shadow 2. Anyways, the other thing he has a quote on is with Kojima, and he did an interview with Games Radar, and this was at 2010. This is when the first game came out. He said the interviewer asked, "Well, when was the last time you spoke to Hideo Kojima, and what's the most surprising thing he's told you?" David says, Kojima-san has brought experience and wisdom to the project. Frankly, the game wouldn't be as good without him, which is remember that he's been developing games for 20 plus years, and most of his team have too. On a technical level, they helped us with many things, with Gabriel and facial animations, design, and more. I get videos from them highlighting issue, and that's really useful. The most surprising thing he's told me was that he felt Mercury Steam could teach them some things about game development. That's typical of Mr. Kojima. He's generous and always looking at ways to improve what he does. Having someone of his caliber helping in a once-in-a-lifetime chance that the Castlevania team is truly grateful for. So, I mean, that just kind of just speaks more to Kojima, what he was doing there. But I don't know. I would
Well,
like
that's the thing, right? It's like
hang out with Kojima.
I don't know. Like that type of shit just reads so much like PR for me.
PR stuff.
Like Kojima doesn't give a flying fuck about Castlevania. Like let's just be honest, right? He
I
doesn't
don't,
care.
I don't, I don't know, man. That guy, Kojima seems so cool. I feel like he really be into Castlevania.
Yeah, it's cool
I,
as shit. But I'm like,
I would rather see Kojima Castlevania. Like,
I'm just saying, like, if you and I were like hanging out at like a book signing, and they're like, and we were like, "Yo, Kojima's gonna be here," and I'd be like, "Oh shit!" And, like, I'd be so excited because he was gonna be there for like Castlevania, and you'd be like, "Oh shit!" But what about like
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear? Yeah, and like we like almost like be like fighting with each other about who was more excited for everything. The thing is like, and he would show up. He's such a fucking rock star. He
He is
wouldn't
a
give a
rock
shit
star.
about any of that. Like it would just be like, that's why. That's what I'm saying.
He'd just be taking pictures of McDonald's and posting it on Twitter.
Yep.
Twitter does. So, yeah.
Yep. So,
That dude's a serial poster, man. He posts like 5 things a day on Instagram. I love him. Love that guy.
I don't. So I don't. And listen, I'm gonna give me just 1 minute.
Here he
Like
goes. I'm
my
back.
no, like my self promotion, real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
So me with my dumbass Destiny stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had Instagram for literally years, and nothing I've ever posted has ever like become a thing. But I was tired of like having like pictures of my Destiny characters on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
taking up so much of like my space. So I started a Destiny account
Hell
for
yeah, I
my
follow it.
yeah you do and
I double tap them pics. Give it that money.
yeah so so it's so ridiculous, but it like makes me laugh. But like I have one picture of my hunter with like this outfit on, and it's by far the most popular thing I've ever done
That's my
on the
man.
internet.
That's my man right there. It's because you're on this. It's because you're on this podcast. You're so popular
That's
now.
what it is. They're like, oh my
Yeah.
god,
Oh my
this
God,
like
it's
fat
Mitch.
loser,
They did 10 episodes of that podcast. Damn,
this fat loser who like watches these things. Come on, does he play
oh
Destiny?
no, stop. No, but follow it. What's the handle for that again?
I don't even know. It's there's so many like underscores I can't keep up. It's Mr. Bones
Mr.
D2. There's
Mr.
like probably like underscores everywhere. I don't
Yeah,
care.
Mr. Bones D2. Just find it on the gram. Do it for the
First of all, it
gram.
doesn't matter. Like, I don't give a shit about like my shit, but like people should be like following you. Like,
No, because no, nobody should be following me. You
yes,
should be
yes, they
subscribing to
should.
this. You
Like,
should be
listen, hey
subscribing
man,
to the
hey,
Substack.
no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I keep tweeting and stuff. I'm
Don't
like,
follow
yo,
me on Instagram. Just subscribe to my Substack. If you're gonna do
no,
one
I
or
keep
the
doing
other.
this. I'm like, hey, like, you're so much like more talented, and like, you're like so much like more like involved in like the world that you're into, like the books and like this type of like, hey man, you're doing so much better than me in life, and
Oh,
like
shush.
all I want to do is like promote that. So
Oh, thanks. I am a corporate book daddy now, but
see, come on,
I
son.
appreciate the kind words. I just like talking about the things I like to talk about, and
Hey, but like
that's it.
people need to like be listening to you and not me.
Aw.
I
It's okay.
nobody.
They'll start listening 200 episodes in, and we
I'll be
won't
here.
we won't have winters anymore, and we'll be having the water wars. We'll still be making the podcast, and then we have to you have to be Team Amazon or Team Disney,
Oh, man.
and yeah, it's the end of the world. Anyway, let's talk about the ending of this game,
Yep.
which
Oh my
so
god.
so
Oh my god.
yeah,
Oh,
so the way the game starts out, it's like you're riding on a warg, you're fighting dudes, it's very Castlevania, and you're like, awesome, this is Castlevania right here.
yeah.
And then the game is not Castlevania for a
Oh,
lot of it. You go to some castles, you do some Castlevania things intermittently.
I mean, so yeah. So
I like the big
like,
the ice castle. It's fun.
no, it was fine. Like everything is good, but I'm just
Yeah.
like it very much was um like how in God of War, like they would
Which
introduce
which
an
one?
enemy,
Sorry.
any of them.
Okay.
They introduce like an enemy, and you're like, oh shit, I kicked his ass, and then that enemy suddenly became like
the
a
common
rank and
enemy.
file thing, and you just had to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like this game, Jesus Christ! Like every like new like arena that you entered became like a boss rush mode in this game. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my! I was like,
Especially,
please,
especially towards the end. So especially towards the end with those coffin monsters, I hated those things.
yep,
I hated them so much. They're just
yep,
the worst. You couldn't dodge
yep,
them.
yep.
They hit you anyway. Oh. Anyway, the end of this game. So it ends with you beating a big ass dragon, and then it doesn't, I don't know why. Then you're like, oh,
It's
okay.
Castlevania.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you're like, oh, we beat the Lords of Shadow or something. And then
Castlevania is all about dragons.
yeah, so that's how I do it. So then Patrick Stewart shows up as, the Zobek character who's supposed to be like your buddy, and then
Mm-hmm.
then he turns out that he's the Lord of Shadow or one of them, and he put you under a spell to kill your wife, and it's this really terrible like
Oh God,
gotcha moment. But then
we didn't even talk about.
but
This is
then
why you should never have me on your show.
but then but then uh so then Zobek's like calling on ancient powers or something. I don't know what happens in that scene. But then uh guess who shows up? Satan himself.
Yep.
And the final boss of the game is Satan, and you have to fight Satan. Uh and that's the end boss, and it is so ridiculous. So it's weird because you beat Satan, and then but then like all the souls are able to go back to like heaven, and like his wife, he's like, oh, I could be with you because I have the mask that gives life, and she's like, nah, it's really great over here, I don't want to be back here. Sucks. Like which I thought was like really great to be like imagine like you were like in the afterlife and it was really nice, and like somebody's like
Yeah.
trying to pull you back to earth. You're like, no, son, this is nice up here. Like it was terrible down there. Like when you just like especially if the game takes place in 147 or 1047 AD, like y'all gonna die at like 35 of some random illness. So like
Right.
yeah, like no
Right.
way. Like so she goes away, the mute backflip girl comes back, she says goodbye, and then the souls are leaving, credits cut, the credits
Yeah.
roll, and you're like, okay, that was the game, and then you can skip the credits, and then there's another scene. And
Yep.
this scene, okay, so this scene now,
This
it,
is the one that fucked me up, bro. This
this
is
is
the one I texted you about.
so this is
I,
where this is where the game, like I was like, oh yeah, we're so back at the end of this. So so I,
I
so
was so confused, and I was like,
I was like, oh man, like I had given up like three-quarters of the way, and I was like, okay, it's just time to finish this game. Like I'm good. But
yeah,
then,
please, for
but
Christ's sake, let it be over.
but
Yeah.
but 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 the last scene of this game, I was like, I cannot wait to put another 30 hours or whatever it is into the next game.
I had
So
the
so
opposite. I had
so
the opposite reaction. I was
so
like,
the end starts with you're inside this like very gothic church, and who should arrive is this hooded figure is walking, down the main, past the pews towards the altar.
yep,
This hooded figure goes and then goes into the goes through a door by the altar and comes out to this sort of huge open area within the church, takes their hood off. Turns out it's Zobek, and he's like
oh
older.
my God.
Yeah, he's older and whatever. He's alive. Oh my God. And you're like, oh, and then he starts talking to
He's
a thing.
Yakuza.
Yeah,
Yakuza.
he starts talking to somebody. He starts talking to Charlie Murphy, the darkness, and he says, he goes, he goes, yeah, that's right. I put a Charlie Murphy Chappelle Show reference in there. So he starts talking to like this character, and then he's like, "Isn't that right, Gabriel?" or something. And then Gabriel comes out of the shadows, and he's Dracula now, which we don't know how.
Right.
So we
What?
don't know how this happened.
Exactly.
We don't know how G Money turned into Dracula. But
Are
there's
we now Dracula? Like, what?
yes. So
What?
let me just stop for in the narrative for 1 second. There are two things of DLC that apparently explain this. But I wasn't going to pay $20 for
Nope.
for 2 more add-ons that I wasn't
I'm
that
so
interested.
tired at this point.
Yeah, I was like, I'm good. Like we're good. Everyone's good. But anyway, so Zobek's there. He pulls Zobek, and then it turns out that Gabriel is now this very unhealthy looking Dracula. Like he is Dracula. Like he is the guy. And once again, that's why I said it doesn't make sense with the Belmont situation to Dracula, whatever. Fine. Uh and then he goes to attack Zobek, but Zobek like throws Dracula through the window,
Yeah,
window shatters, and then we find we are in current day either
yeah.
New York City or something. Like there's cars and Dracula falls on the ground and people are screaming, and I was like, okay, this is so ridiculous and stupid. I'm so back. Like I am so whatever this game wants to do next, I'm here for it. I want current day Dracula running around. So that's how the game ends. It's so ridiculous, out of left field, doesn't make any sense why we got there. Um,
Nope.
but that's how it ends. And then Lords of Shadow 2. So
Yeah.
apparently, so like in my research of this game, like Lords of Shadow 2 comes up a lot because they're both oddities, and Lords of Shadow 2 takes place in this current day cityscape, and you play as Dracula, and it kind of goes back and forth in like flashbacks and stuff. But like this is where that Lords of Shadow 2 picks up where this game ends, basically. So
Oh Christ.
yeah, so but no fixed cameras anymore apparently. So that's good. And then also it's supposed to be more Castlevania-ish, but apparently it got rid of the old problems of Lord of Shadow, but replaced them with a bunch of new problems. So it's
Well,
essentially another uneven game.
well, it's like it's one of those things where it's like Castlevania. Konami just really didn't know what to do, right? And in Castlevania was it has always been one of their like money makers, but they were like, well, how do we do like a Metroidvania, but like not it be that. So that's
Yeah,
kind of what this game was to me. I was like, I kind of I enjoyed it. Um, I remember I liked it more now, playing it for the show than I did. I remember playing it before,
hmm
but at the same time, like I had to look up a guide for
yeah.
so much of it because I was so goddamn tired of like not knowing what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, there was definitely a few moments where I was like banging my head against the wall trying to figure a
Yep.
puzzle out. Yeah, I think for me too, I think I enjoyed the experience. I do think like I said, it's something that's more interesting to look at than maybe play. Um, but we will get into what happened to Mercury Steam. Mercury Steam's fine now. Like I said, they're working with Nintendo to do the Metroid games now. Like apparently, like they did really well, so they're fine. But Lords of Shadow 2 caused so much backlash to this, like to Konami. Like, like I'm so excited to get into that. Like, it caused so much backlash, and it caused like there's like interviews with David Cox like losing his mind about Lords of Shadow 2, which I was reading. I was like, this is so funny. This British guy. If you see like what he looks like a dude who would just like fight you like outside of a bar in Britain. Like he's like this bald dude. Like, but like, yeah, I don't know. Nothing against David. He seems like he really likes video games, but he definitely had it with Castlevania by the end of that second Lords of Shadow too. So, yeah, can't wait to get into all of that. Yeah, I definitely think I wouldn't go out there and be like, yo, you gotta go play this game. Uh there's so
Yeah,
many
we're about
games.
to shut it down. So if you want
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
probably go
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, in 3 days time they'll probably pull it from storefronts. So make sure you get your physical copy now. Um yeah, so it's definitely an oddity. And I don't really know what to make of it. But I'm happy that I actually played through it. And I can't,
Yeah,
yeah.
same. I kind of remember like not liking it a whole
Yeah.
lot back in the day, and going back to it just to talk about it with you, I was like, yeah, I liked it a lot more. So
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird one. But like I said, I'm
yeah,
I'm excited to get into Lord. We're not gonna do that next because I need a break from this type of game for a little bit.
yeah.
I was trying to see if Clive Barker's Jericho, if I could get that on.
I mean, I have it. So
I mean, I do too for my PS3, but I'd rather play it on my Xbox.
yeah.
Oh man. Oh, see, all day,
Jesus.
all day, dude. Uh, uh, no, that's not helpful. Yeah, I don't know if you could play it. Yeah, I don't think it's on. I looks like I have to. Looks like I have to boot up the old PS3, the old
Oh
tried
my God.
and old tried and
First,
true.
first world problems.
Yeah, I know, right? I have to always boot up my other console. I love my PS3. I got a bunch of games for it. I love it, but
I do too. But yeah,
I'm
I
just
was
lazy.
they're like shutting down like the store left and right for certain things. I don't know.
Yeah, it's super weird. But I have a bunch of like a bunch of discs for PS3, which I'm happy I still have. So um
Yeah, folklore. You know what folklore is?
yeah, I do have folklore.
I do too. And that game is
That
like super expensive now because like
is it? I don't
yeah.
think I have the case for it. I just think I have the disc.
No, I have it, and
Uh,
it's super expensive now. So
have you played it?
no, good lord, no, I don't.
Oh wow, you haven't played it. Okay, it's a good game. I like it. It's weird. That was one of those early PS3 games that is also maybe at some point worth revisiting because it's such a weird game that they don't make anymore. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the way
Hey,
they.
hey, man, like this is my favorite thing about what kind of what we're doing with your show, which is like you could probably be doing way better with other people,
Nah, homie.
but
But
like when we shut down Spec Ops, so like
it's
you know,
true. We are the most. Oh my God, I'm gonna sneeze again. We are the most powerful video game
yeah,
outlet in.
listen,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ruin like other like mm, early 2000s video games. There's no one else I'd rather do it. So
Thanks, buddy. I don't know what is going on with my nose today. It's like somebody just took a cat and rubbed it in my face and then ran away when I was sleeping.
hey man, look, we're late tonight for because of my daughter, and so same thing, you know, loves her animals and she loves her cats, but
Oh, are you allergic to animals?
I'm not. She is,
Oh, she is. Got it. Got it.
but she also loves her fucking cat. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you?
I know
Anyway,
it's tough. It's tough when you I love doggos so much. I would hate to be allergic to dogs. That'd be the worst.
same thing, same thing with her. So
Bummer. Um, well, all right, Mitch. Another successful casting of the pod.
is that the word?
Um, follow Mitch, Mr. Bowens online,
Or don't, please don't.
or do not, and find his Destiny handle. Subscribe to the Substack.
Please subscribe to the Substack.
Damage per second, but this is damage per podcast. But if you just go look everywhere for damage per Jesse, you probably find me somewhere. I think.
Or if you do follow me on the internet, just
Damage per Jesse. There we
well,
go. We got it. We're
if you
good.
follow me, I'm just gonna be like retweeting and telling you to follow him, so it's fine.
Nice. Cool. All right. Yeah, I think let me think about before confirming we're going to talk about Jericho next. Let me think.
I mean,
I can't remember if that's a long game. Is that a long
It's
game?
not. That's not.
Yeah, that was like when first person shooters were like 6 hours long.
Right. Yeah.
Game length. About 7 hours, so I was close, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My Google search history is the most fucking chaotic shit.
No, you should see mine.
Oh man. Like the guy like why is this guy looking up Clive Barker's Jericho at 9 o'clock on a Sunday or Saturday?
Well, and also like again, like I have a teenage daughter, so I'm like they're like, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with this guy? I'm like, first of all,
I
it's,
gotta figure things out.
mm,
Um, yeah, like I said, damage per everything on the internets. And maybe Clive Barker's Jericho next in a couple of weeks.
yeah, man. Hey, listen,
I think
like I said, just let me know.
the 16th maybe.
Um, like all bullshit aside, I just like talking to you.
I
You
like
know,
talking to you too, Mitch. That's why we're here. We can talk
you're
about.
one of my favorite people.
Aw, I
So
try. Thanks, Mitch. One of my favorite people.
so
You're,
I love like the Substack. I love like reading the your reviews of the books, and I've really enjoyed you know that you're living the dream, man. You know, listen to you like not listening, but like reading, your interviews with Karen and like just I mean, Jesus Christ, man, like you know, you like doing your like reviews of like the video game novels and like talking to the people that write them and shit like that, bro. That's fucking amazing.
I'm just,
It's
yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I mean, like for me, like, like it's just something I'm passionate about, and I'm really happy I'm doing it. And I don't really care about, everyone says this. I don't really care about the clicks or all that stuff. But for me, like, I have a job that pay that, I make, I don't need to do this to make money. I'm not making money, and uh I just put my work into all this work into it because I care about it, and it's something
yeah,
that I I'm very passionate about, which I think is
yeah,
very clear. So,
yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like um, I know like that you and Jeff and what's his name
which one? There's a few of them.
barbecue. What's his name? Chad.
Chad, yeah,
Yeah,
Chad.
yeah. And I used to like show up to y'all's like weekly, like
Ridiculous,
podcast.
yeah, ridiculousness,
I
yeah.
used to be like, man, I wish I was cool enough to like talk to you guys. So,
Hey, well,
so
now you're here. We're talking about.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm so excited, like to be a part even of
Oh,
this. Like, you're killing it, man.
oh,
And
thanks. Well, we're
and
killing it together with this dope ass podcast about
I'm so
vi-
fucking happy
video
for you.
video games that are over a decade
So, but
old.
no, what I'm saying, like, I'm again, I'm very excited that you're like, killing it, and I'm
Oh,
so thankful that you let me be a small part of it.
oh,
So,
no problem, buddy. Yeah, I'm very privileged and blessed to do like to have, be able to uh pursue the things that I want, and also have a job that I can be able to do things like this. And I'm very lucky in that way. And I don't not think that I wake I think about all the stuff I get to do in my professional life, and then also for my hobbies and things, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and I always try to keep that, you know, in mind when I get a little fussy about things. So,
because bro, you're the fucking man.
ah,
Uh,
thanks.
and um, if at some point you decide to
Pass away.
start building. No, don't pass away. But if you start sitting in your closet and putting together Evangelion
I'm listening.
no, if you I'm just saying if you just
I got a Gundam ready to go that I've been eyeing all week to
know,
do.
if at some point you're like, yo, I'm popular enough that maybe I could like stream me sitting in my closet and putting together these Lego sets. Yeah, I'm pulling up. So
Yeah, I don't maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think streaming for me is the way to go. But I don't know. I it's a
hey
lot of
man, hey,
it's a lot of performing for a very long amount of time. And I don't know if
I'm
I'm
just saying if you decided to put together an Evangelion model kit in your closet and you streamed it, and then I also decided to do that, you would have way more viewers than I would.
I do have a uh couple of Evangelion Gundams. So
I knew it.
I got it, baby. That's right.
Yeah,
You. All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Mitch, for being here. Tune in,
always.
tune in a couple of weeks where we talk about more nonsense.
Oh my god, it's gonna be
Yeah,
nonsense. I'm gonna be
nonsense. Yeah. Till then, peace.